Hey, hey.
Hello, hello.
What are you laughing at?
Oh, just the half a second you didn't have your glasses on.
Yeah, you found the hole in my armor. That's
Yep.
true.
With
Um, so here we are. We're back. Icarus Fest is in the history books now. We did something, man. It was quite a thing. Just got back on Monday. I got back. You and I both got back on Monday. Yeah, it was 4 amazing days and really surprised me in a lot of ways, exceeded my expectations in a lot of ways. And God, I've heard there's already podcasts being done about it. I listened to that one podcast that was done. Two attendees, many attendees are actually podcasters and
Humble Superstar. Shout out to Humble Superstar.
Humble Superstar, yeah, and they loved it. And lots of people have been buzzing about it. So it's we're feeling pretty good. And it went so well that the Williams Center wants to do it again. So that will just be the first Icarus Fest. We're coming up on the second, and we're actually going to announce that, I think, in the not too distant future. So look out for that, Icarus Fest 2024. Amazing. Incredible.
And if you didn't make it this time, please just visit the Williams Center if you ever have the opportunity. It's run by amazing people who are committed to heterodox programming. There's nothing like it really anywhere else in the world. A beautiful Art Deco theater with a cinema underneath and a nice, intimate little theater space for comedy and podcasting. They're doing amazing events the whole time. So please check out the Williams Center.
Yeah, those were the reasons that I agreed to do Icarus Fest with them. They reached out to us and asked us to organize something like the Icarus Fest, and that's what it became. But I didn't know who they were at all until they reached out to me. And when I got out of the car a week ago, when I arrived there, I'd never been to Rutherford. I'd never seen it before. And I was blown away. It's an amazing town. And the Williams Center is just incredible. It was so much bigger than I thought it was going to be. It's like a huge building. It's got 5 stages in it and 3 cinemas and a giant Art Deco theater
And a music venue, a theater before you get to the theater, which hopefully we can use next year.
Yeah, and there's going to be a restaurant is moving in next month to the bottom, and it's just so yeah. These guys, the Olivo brothers, have only had it for a year and a half, and they've already just made it into something really special. And yeah, Chuck and Michael Olivo, who run the place, and Michael was co-producer of Icarus Fest with us. They're just the greatest guys. I don't know. I can't say enough about both of them. I love them, and they're just so. God, they're so committed. They're so cool. They're so hardworking, generous, just very chill, very mellow guys, but also quite ambitious. And they want to make the Williams Center into something, more. Now I'm thinking about this and talking about it, like I'm realizing the potential importance of this because these guys want to host the dissident people out there. They want to host the dirtbag left and the new right and everybody who's been canceled or threatened with cancellation, everybody on the dissident side, they want the Williams Center to be our home. They want us to do events there. They want us to do talks there, comedy shows, cultural festivals, film festivals, whatever. They wanted to have me give a talk there. That's what they want. That's another thought, by the way. But
yeah, well, their ambition is incredible. They want to build 80 residential spaces on top of the Williams Center and use them for artists in residence. This could be like an amazing refuge for heterodox artists.
I forgot about that. That's right. That's their development plan. Now, there are 5 people in town in Rutherford who are the lefty political activists. And they're all fascists, and they have been trying to shut down the Williams Center since Chuck and Michael took it over. Been lots of protests. However, I believe they just got a unanimous vote the day after Icarus Fest. Mm-hmm. So they were really worried all throughout Icarus Fest that there was this big meeting going to happen the day after the festival to basically approve the redevelopment plan that would put the apartments there. Huge thing. And Chuck and Michael were very nervous about it because Icarus Fest got them in trouble too. There was word going around town that it was making townspeople feel unsafe. It was just utterly, incredibly childish, just so juvenile, but typical for the woke left. I mean, it was that kind of stuff. Anyway, so they had this meeting. The city council met on Monday, the day after Icarus Fest. Chuck had to get up and testify about how it went and everything. And the redevelopment plan was on the line.
It was hilarious that they used the word unsafe as we were screening the film. Safe.
That's right. Yeah. And we had Lou Perez, who was the MC, who used to have the show Unsafe Spaces, and he's now a regular at the Williams Center.
Yeah.
Lou's the main reason we got there, by the way. That was the connector. But that's how. Anyway. So anyway, they had this hearing, and I don't know.
Real quick. Note
on
Lou Perez. I've never seen him do stand-up until this weekend, and he's a phenomenal stand-up.
Killed it.
Yeah.
Great. Perfect MC. He was great. Yeah. He killed it. God, everybody check out Danny Polishuk. I thought he killed it. I didn't know his stuff until then. A lot of people killed it. We can talk about that in a minute. But but long story short. So anyway, they held this hearing. The city council were on pins and needles because if they don't get this vote, the Williams Center goes away. There's no more Icarus Fest. There will be no safe space for people like us, for the dissident left and right, for countercultural artists, for people who are outside the neoliberal box. They really want to make this our home, and that we were this close to losing that home, and it was all riding on how Icarus Fest went. And the day after, they got a unanimous vote for the redevelopment plan. So, and Chuck said it went great, and no one was hostile about it. So, humongous success. So this is why they want to re-up with us, and we're doing it. So Icarus Fest is now annual, baby. It's now annual. Hell yeah.
As somebody who believes in magic, it's so gratifying to see our intention of the festival play out perfectly. We were inspired by William Carlos Williams and his poem Icarus about the Bruegel painting, where Icarus splashes into the sea and you barely see him into the distance. And that was the idea, right? We just want to do our own thing, make a little splash, not disturb anybody, but still be as glorious as we are. And that exactly happened.
Yeah. So what we're trying to do, and it's a big, somewhat unwieldy, ambitious project. I mean, just conceptually, it's a big thing that we want it to be, which is this kind of merger of dissident politics with countercultural art. And I know, of course, the first thing you're going to say is, well, what does dissident mean and what does countercultural mean? Totally get it. I understand. But for me, I think for us, dissident means, I think that's fairly easy these days to define. I mean, people who are like Max Blumenthal and Michael Tracy, who are leftists clearly, but are opposed to the Democratic Party. Basically, it's people who are anti-liberal, meaning they're opponents of the current liberal regime that dominates the institutions, right? And government. That's it. So that's dissident. And then countercultural, that's a little trickier, countercultural art. But I mean, I would say it's actually not that tricky. So again, to me, really is the sort of the Democratic Party liberal power block is, to me, that's the regime that we all live under that dominates. And they don't just dominate politics. Of course, they dominate the cultural institutions. So I would say Icarus Fest is about artists who simply will not ever be given a platform in legacy corporate media, right? They'll never be in a Hollywood studio movie. Their paintings will never be shown in one of the main galleries, in Midtown Manhattan. They're never going to be, they might be on Netflix, but only in a supporting role or something. You know what I mean? I mean, It's people who simply are outside the cultural establishment, which is locked together with the Democratic Party liberal political establishment, right?
Yeah. And the legacy media is really just a giant money laundering scheme. There's no actual production happening there. It's just a bunch of money being thrown around. Like, there's no actual generation of culture happening there. It's very, very artificial. And a big theme of Icarus Fest is that culture itself is the new counterculture, and we really showed that.
I mean, I don't know if I'd go that far, but
I'd go
I mean, they're producing something. I mean, of course, you know me, I don't like a lot of what's being produced in the culture these days. Although I'd say more the music. TV shows are still pretty good, and there's still some decent movies. But the further from the center of the industry you go, the better the quality. Right? I mean, the center of the cultural industry is Marvel movies. That's kind of the hub. And well, anyway, I know, whatever. So I mean, and then you have to walk many concentric circles out from that to get to a place where you're seeing movies that are actually adult and deal with adult themes and issues and have a fair amount of, conversation and dialogue in it, in which people are, talking about their feelings in sophisticated ways. It's hard, but it's out there anyway. So yes, so we, like, Icarus Fest is about people who are simply outside the liberal establishment. Liberal establishment in politics and in culture and art. And I think people know what that means. Is that clear enough?
Yeah, totally. And the Humble Superstar podcast that recapped it was great, because we saw the whole art crowd come out to Icarus Fest, and they were primarily interested in the gray zone. They were primarily interested in the war in Ukraine. We really unified those two worlds and showed that vision.
Yeah, it was amazing to see people buy tickets. There was like many people who bought a ticket for the panel on Ukraine, and then to see Gone with the Wind and have Jack Mason's critique of it, like, or I mean, Compact, Jeff Schellenberger and Compact Magazine did a whole panel on saving the arts. Can the arts be saved? I mean, this is about like high art, right? And you had people who were like going from that panel to the one on the War on Terror on Saturday night after we watched Jihad Rehab with the filmmaker Makes Maker. It was a hell of an event, man. And we haven't even talked about comedy night. I mean, Kurt Metzger did like a 20-minute set, right?
I think he did 15 minutes and then 45 minutes.
And then he did a 45-minute headliner set after that. But right there, like, the value of that ticket, what a deal that was. Because we had, honestly, it's over. I don't have to, you can believe me because I don't need to hype it anymore. Yeah. It was ridiculous what we gave people. Seriously, it was Lou Perez, who was all throughout. Rich Voss, who's like a big time New York comic who busted my balls on the way in, on the way out. And then while he was on stage, he spent a half an hour busting the balls of all of us. And I didn't know that's what he does. I didn't know he was an insult comic like that. So I actually got a little offended, and I almost got into a fist fight with Rich Voss. But other than that, I mean, he's like 5'6". So it wasn't like I was super heroic or anything, but no, it was all good. But
we'll have a celebrity boxing match next year between you and Rich Voss.
Well, I mean, we're the same age. Good luck, Rich. That's all I have to say. The main thing was, though, God, I mean, he is a big time professional. Like, he was amazing. His chops, his timing, his delivery, it was incredible. And he did crowd work. Like, he did like a whole section of his show was just crowd work. If you know stand-up comedy, that's like a different level. Like, that's a lot of
uncharted waters. Uncharted waters.
He had something hilarious to say no matter what you said, and he had it ready, and it was immediate. His crowd work skills are top notch, and I didn't know that about him. I mean, I'm a huge fan of crowd work, and so he was working our crowd, baby. And Kurt was amazing, and he's developing new material now. So I think we were pretty much the first audience to see his material that'll be a special.
So he had a 30-minute comedy special that's going to be released pretty soon, Gas Digital, and then had another 30 minutes where he was just bringing up topics and figuring out what's funny about them. So if you're a comedy nerd, that was an amazing night to see the process in action. Yep.
Yeah, it was, right. And then we had Dan Natterman, who's like he's like a very well-known New York comic who does like the Opie Anthony show, I think, or stuff like that. And then Danny Polishuk, who, like, I had just heard about recently. He's Ryan Long's partner, right? And
the Boys Cast.
I didn't know. I had seen him do an interview or something. I hadn't really seen his stand up. I thought he killed, and I really killed. He had me bent over a couple times in laughter. And and he was the right amount of political, because this festival is not about politics. It's about everything. It's about politics and what we're calling culture and art, right? So that's where comedy is beautifully positioned as a nexus between politics and art, right? To me, it's right in between there, or it's all of those things at once. So, comedy will always be a part of Icarus Fest. I'm already thinking about which comics we should have come next year. Pretty exciting. Man, next year, as great as this one was, next year,
Yeah,
we're gonna have so many advantages in various ways. It's gonna be 10 times better.
sky's the limit, baby.
The Argentinian grill that we ran on Friday night for the VIPs, that was the best food I've had in a long time and the most fun I've had in a long time. We almost missed the comedy show because we all got so wrapped up at the VIP dinner that we almost forgot to go across the street. But yeah, it was pretty awesome.
That's funny. That's another thing, man. Meat itself is countercultural, man. Meat is so expensive, and to have cows flown in from Argentina for an amazing steak dinner, that is rebellion right there.
That's right. Yeah, and eaten by two black guys and their white friends. I mean, that was funny as hell. Like every time, listeners to this show would have been quite amused this weekend listening to Michael whenever he referred to me. I would often hear you talk about me with other people, and it was all every single time it was this. Oh yeah, I started listening to Thad because he's an expert on Black culture, and so he's like,
"You are, dude. You are."
I know. No, you're right. And there used to be a day. I meant to tell you this. Like, as of like 20 years ago, there were quite a few white people who were professors of Black studies. Like, that was not weird, actually. Like in the 90s, there were a lot of white professors of African American history, and that they were employed in African American studies departments and stuff.
They still are a little bit, but they're the most self-flagellating, worst people you can imagine.
You can't get hired now, though. Like as a white, I don't know. They don't do that anymore. Now it's really segregated. Anyway, but I'm just saying nowadays we live in such a racist time that it's hard. I shouldn't be. You're right. You're totally right. Like there's nothing you said that's wrong. In fact, it's completely accurate. I am totally an expert on like African American history and culture. I mean, for fuck's sake, my first job in graduate school was an editor and writer for the Encyclopedia of African American History and Culture. So, I mean, that was just one piece of it. But yeah, it's terrible that nonetheless we live in such a racist time that even I feel like some weird shame about that, like, or I'm not ashamed, but I'm embarrassed a little bit, like I always cringed whenever I heard you saying that to someone. But you're right.
Yeah, man. No, I mean, like the second chapter of Renegade History did a lot to expel that shame for me personally. Made me feel proud to play this music and made me recognize it's coming from a place of love.
Right. Thank you, man. Yeah, no, that's humongous. Wow. Never heard you say it like that, but that's right. That is like a bullseye in terms of what my hopes were for that book. Is I hope to one day hear what you just said. That it would be like I don't want to say permission, but I'd like that people would feel lovers of white people who are lovers of Black culture, that it would allow them to expiate any feelings of guilt or shame they might have about that. Yes. That's I guess what it was about. I would like for people to enjoy Black culture and participate in it fully if they want, and feel no embarrassment about it whatsoever. And what you will find, and I will promise you this, I will bet any amount of money on this because I've been in both of these situations more than very few people. I mean, there are very few people who've been in these situations as often as, which is to say, I've been the one white guy among middle class Black people, like groups of them. And I've also often been the one white guy in groups of like working class Black people. Totally different, completely different people. The middle class Black people will always make me feel ashamed. They will always like make jokes or something, especially if they're lefties. If they're just normal, regular people, they're fine. But like, if usually those tend to be the middle class Blacks tend to be more political, more liberal, more lefty. If they're political at all, bad news. They're going to shame me. But the vast majority of, but working class people, I don't give a fuck. In fact, generally speaking, in all my experiences growing up in and around Oakland and living there for many years and whatever, Black working class people have always like loved my participation, like loved it, totally been into it and welcomed it. And yeah, and sure, shit didn't shame it or like look down on it at all. Because, you know, they're like proud of the culture, and they're like, if you're proud of the culture, why would you not want other people to also admire it? I mean, it's crazy. Anyway, so thank you. That was really beautiful to hear. And that really fulfills like my deepest wish about that book, which is now 13 years old. So yeah, I've never heard until it took me 13 years to hear someone say that.
Wow.
Thank you, sir.
Well, we have 600 gigs of video files here that I need to edit, and everybody stay tuned. Yes, stay tuned because all these panels are going to be released to some capacity, and you will see the quality of conversations we had.
God, Jack the Perfume Nationalist did three panels, and every one of those was spectacular. I mean,
and there was we introduced them to Schollenberger, and they hit it off like crazy, like two kindred spirits, and they're going to be working together.
They had a little love affair that weekend. I mean, not literally, because Jack's boyfriend was there the whole time, Chris, who I adore too. But yeah, no, Jack and Jeff hit it off, and I really hope that Jack will be appearing in the pages of Compact Magazine because of this.
He is such a good writer.
I think he will.
Yeah, his prose is so underrated, and I want to see that out there.
And I'm sure that Jeff will be on TPN soon too. So
awesome.
Like having Icarus Fest make that happen. And like Clint is going to have Max Blumenthal and Aaron Mate and Michael Tracy on his show now. Like
great.
You know, and probably vice versa in some cases. So like, that's what, I mean, yeah.
Also, we got the libertarians and socialists together, man.
We got libertarians and socialists. This festival was 2/3 socialist. 2/3. It was a majority socialist in terms of the speakers. But everybody got along great. Everybody was very respectful and admiring even of one another. And Clint was just beautiful. And I love that guy. And he just super pleasure always to do anything with Clint. And I'm so glad we flew him up from Florida. And he made awesome contributions in the panels on Ukraine and the war on terror, and also presented a point of view that no one else really had, like coming from the right, coming from the business world, being a hardcore libertarian, anarchist, that whole, like, he really held that down. By the way, if you are an ANCAP watching this or listening to this, you need to be very grateful that you got Clint Russell out there repping you. And by the way, Clint is about to, I didn't even know this, he told me at the VIP dinner on Saturday, he's moving to Virginia, and he's working for Timcast, and his show is going to be produced by Tim Pool. And Clint is going to be, I guess, one of the regular hosts on Timcast.
He still has complete independent control over the show, but it's going to be produced in the studio of Timcast.
Right. Yeah. But he's going to continue doing Liberty Lockdown, but it's going to be produced by Timcast. And he's now going to be the regular host of 2 shows, I think, right? On Timcast.
Yeah, that's in development. But yeah, he'll be appearing regularly on Timcast itself.
So, and let me remind everyone, if you don't know this, Clint Russell 3 years ago was a mortgage broker in San Diego. Like, this dude, completely on his own with no leg up whatsoever. And by the way, the money didn't help. Yeah, he had money and he admits it. Didn't help. Doesn't help you at all in podcasting. You have to be, I mean, because podcasting is super cheap. Anybody can podcast like tomorrow. It takes like $300 to podcast. Yeah, people don't realize that it takes about $300 to start podcasting at a high level. I mean, so he did this entirely bootstrapped on his own, no help whatsoever. I mean, he's a phenomenal conversationalist. Unlike the vast majority of libertarians, Clint has no trace of Asperger's. He's very, he's a great conversationalist. That's why we're friends, because he invited me on his show years ago, and I was just struck by what a fantastic listener he was, and conversationalist. Again, he's really like emotionally intelligent. Him and Buck Johnson, those are the two libertarians who can actually talk to people.
Also Jeremy Kaufman, he was out there all weekend.
Jeremy is the shit. Yeah. I mean, he's not a podcaster, so he wasn't included in that last comparison. But yeah, Jeremy was amazing. I love Jeremy. He and I think a lot alike. We have sort of similar sensibilities or something. Like we're both instincts. Instincts. Yeah, we're both like, just, we can't stop stirring shit. I think there's something about, I don't know. We both like that. We both need to just stir shit all the time. But yeah, he was brilliant, and he's heroic. And I mean, he was the one person on stage who I would say is an actual hero for what he's done. I mean, trying to founding library and Odyssey, I mean, the true like free speech. I mean, he's created a world where free speech will always reign, where it is invincible. Where free speech is invincible, because you can't edit, you can't censor the blockchain. So putting all media on the blockchain, which is what they did, was just, there's nothing more good and revolutionary than that. And the SEC, and they would be soaring high right now, and they'd be dominating the market, I think, if the SEC hadn't spent the last, 3 years trying to destroy them, and they just did. So
they're still up, man. Odyssey's still running.
They're still up, but they're bankrupt, and they need to rewrite their business model. And they're going to. Jeremy told me that they're going to keep going, but they have to rewrite the whole model. They have to do some other thing now. Yeah. Hopefully with the same blockchain element at the core of it. But anyway, yeah.
There's millions of viewers every day on Odyssey, great supporters. So keep it up, man.
Yeah. I mean, Rumble's great, but Odyssey's better. And for free speech, I mean, because there's no censor at all. I mean, there is at the top level. They do like Odyssey censors because they have to things that are illegal, which is I think that's the only thing they censor is stuff that's illegal, which is perfect. That's the perfect policy. But as I understand it, like the stuff that's illegal never exits library. Because library is just a blockchain, so anybody can put anything on it, and I believe it can never be censored there because it's a blockchain. So even the illegal stuff is on the blockchain, is on library, but what you can actually see, I guess, on a video player is censored only for illegal stuff. Anyway, that's Jeremy, and he's also hilarious and has made some of the funniest, I think, political campaign ads ever. Probably the funniest and most effective when he was running for Senate last cycle in 2020. He ran for U.S. Senate from New Hampshire, Libertarian Party ticket, and he made a series of commercials that were mock commercials, campaign commercials, basically, that went viral and were totally hilarious. Among the greatest hits is the commercial called "War is Gay," and it was amazing. So, yeah. Jeff Schellenberger was brilliant and the whole time, and god damn, yeah, it was amazing. So yeah.
Speaking of war is gay, Pride parades happened.
There you go.
Yeah. And the good people of Lockheed Martin were celebrating Pride out there. So this was the Lockheed Martin float at DC's Pride Parade.
Yeah. Yeah. So many things to be said about this, but I guess it's extremely important. It's obviously ridiculous and worthy of mockery for sure, but let's remember what Lockheed Martin is. They produce machines that instruments that have killed tens of millions of people. I don't know, and many of them are civilians, all around the world over decades. So, and I think all of us listening or watching this would agree that the weapons really didn't need to for our own security or for anybody's security, that most of those deaths, of course, were for not good purposes. So, I mean, that's what we're talking about. We're also talking about, outright corporatist entities, parasitical entities. These are the, from either a left or libertarian perspective, these are the worst possible corporations. These are ones that exist entirely off the teat of the federal government, entirely dependent on the state, and they suck us damn near dry. So, just really bad, man. Lockheed Martin is just as bad as it gets. I mean, there's, again, from a left or libertarian perspective, that's me, that's you, that's the audience, I think I'm talking about. This is the worst entity, pretty much worst institution, I would say, on the planet. Now, then you have all these sweet, lovable little gay people walking alongside Lockheed Martin, or I guess as Lockheed Martin, representing. And what a lovely leafy tree-lined street that is in lovely Washington, D.C. So it turns out, this might have been, I think this is actually photoshopped. And I might need to delete that. But, this is like, it's from a meme that I'm sure a lot of people saw from years ago. So someone needs to write a history. When I get my Substack going, that's a soft announcement that I'm going to go to Substack in the near future, and I'm going to begin writing on a regular basis. That's the main thing that's going to happen soon. When I do that, I think I need to write an article about the history of this, the employment of LGBTQ politics in the service of the empire, the U.S. empire, which has been just astounding what they've done. And as soon as the 2000s come around, it really takes off. I mean, when Hillary is the Secretary of State, she like changes first. So 1 minute, this is amazing. I need to get the chronology exactly right.
Well,
but anyway,
Hillary Clinton, who was famously the senator from Lockheed Martin, was the joke.
Very nice. I didn't even think about that tie-in. Exactly. Known as the senator from Lockheed Martin because she got more money from Lockheed Martin than any other senator. And of course, always voted for a weapons package. She never met a weapons package she never didn't like. So I'm sure everybody remembers that Hillary Clinton was completely dead set, like pretty passionately against gay marriage when her husband was president all through the 90s. Both Hillary and Bill were, sternly against gay marriage and gave little lectures and sermons about it. I mean, they weren't shy about it. They weren't ashamed of it. No, they were like really quite sure that gay marriage is like really bad and that should be illegal. In the 1990s, this is just a little while ago. And then she flipped, of course, when the Democratic Party realized that David Geffen and company have a fuck ton of money. And if they would simply toe the line of LGBTQ rights, would get all that money, that good ass Hollywood money, that good ass New York City money, the high culture money. There's some bucks in there. And, you look at the spending done by private individuals, it's dominated in the campaigns, dominated by Hollywood celebrities. And Hollywood celebrities all of them are either gay or best friends with 7 gay people. So she flips like the rest of the Democratic Party, and suddenly she loves the fucking gays. she can't get enough of the gays. Oh man, we love the gays. And starts making regular, this is when Hillary started making regular visits to Hollywood. It was right at that time. They didn't love, like they had a sort of somewhat strained relationship with Hollywood at first in the 90s. But by the time she's Secretary of State, oh, no. They're loving up on each other. So the Clintons are raking in cash. I've been at some of those houses. I know Bill, a very close friend of Bill and Hillary, who used to run fundraisers for them in Beverly Hills. And he was an old colleague of mine, so I used to be in his house. I've been in that world. I know what it's like. The cash is off the charts. We're talking about major Los Angeles Hollywood money. So yeah, they're super LGBT. And then they realize, come around the 2010s, that this issue, LGBTQ, this is the move. This is the most gangster, brilliant move Hillary and company ever made. They saw that the LGBTQ politics could get their base excited about NATO, because they were like, oh shit, the Russians kind of homophobic. Oh shit, Putin just passed this law making it illegal to talk to children about being gay. I think it's actually even worse. I think it's even better than that. I need to look this up. But anyway, I think it's homosexual discourse around minors. I think that's what it is. It was made illegal, which I don't support, but it's also not an anti-gay bill. Anyway, nonetheless, didn't matter, because, your typical American liberal is an idiot, not going to read it, not going to study this anyway. So you can see, beginning around 2008, 9, suddenly there's these articles about Vladimir Putin being homophobic and Russia being homophobic. Oh, damn. And this was all right around the time when there was a huge debate about Ukraine being admitted to NATO or not. And this is when the whole West, they had pretty much already decided this, but, come around 2008, they were like, fuck this Putin dude. We're taking his ass out. But they had known that since 97 for sure. But they really solidified around this time. But then they realized right around then, gay marriage happens. And they're like, oh, we're going to use this. We're going to use this because we know our base gets excited about the gays. They found that out with the gay marriage thing. They lost that, and they had to accept gay marriage because there was such passion in their base for the gays. So they were like, we can use this for our foreign policy objectives now. Damn, this is the slickest shit. And so every newspaper, magazine, CNN, MSNBC, the whole liberal universe started churning out these anti-Putin pieces. And in every case, we're talking first and foremost about how he hates the gays and how they're killing the gays in Russia and how there's lynchings of gays in Russia and Putin is anti-gay and homophobic, yada, yada. And all my libtard friends at the time who lived in LA were like, yeah, suddenly they didn't know anything about, they didn't barely know where Russia is. They were like, oh, well, this Putin dude, man, why is he so like fucked up, man? That level, but they're going to go they're going to go vote for their Democrat pretty passionately. And this is another reason. And they also get sanctioned. The Democratic Party gets sanctioned to do things like have $150 billion proxy wars over Eastern Ukraine that might lead to World War III. Their base is cool with it because they know that this Putin guy is evil, because they know that he's homophobic. And in that mind, within the liberal mind, being homophobic or racist or sexist to any degree makes you the devil. There is no gray area. There's no nuance. This is either you are good or evil. And Putin is very firmly evil in their minds, since Hillary and company learned to weaponize the LGBTQ issue against poor Vlad and against, most importantly, the poor Russian people, and the poor Ukrainian people who are these days dying by the thousands. And because of this insatiable quest by the United States of America to dismember and essentially occupy Russia, they've had a hard-on to do that since, I said, 1997. And they're clearly willing to kill lots of people, even their own friends, the Ukrainians. They're willing to kill so many of their friends, their good friends who they love. They love those Ukrainians so much. Have you noticed? And yet they're like super cool with killing 100, 200,000 of them.
All of them. They're cool.
Maybe all of them.
All of them.
Right.
The comedian Owen Benjamin was recently on Tower Gang, and I was talking to Clint Russell about that. It was a huge moment for them. Damn. Yeah, and although he is explicitly anti-gay, he likes to call this phenomenon the sodomy industrial complex.
Wait, what is explicitly anti-gay mean? How so is he gay? What is? I mean, there's various ways of being anti-gay, right? What? Yeah, like what's his position on the gay?
Oh, he's explicitly like
what should be done with them? Like, what does he think? What should be done about them?
I've never heard him push that far about that. He just doesn't want them in his community.
How fucking anti-gay is that, dude? Yeah. We used to put them in prison. We used to castrate them. We used to kill them. Like, not long ago. That was the standard practice. That was the law. These pussies these days, they talk about being anti-gay and they don't even want to hurt them. I call bullshit on all these dudes. Really. All these new right, oh, I'm homophobic. Oh, I hate gays. No, you don't hate gays. You probably love gays. Because because not long ago, again, there were lots and lots and lots of homophobic people who were totally cool with putting gays in solitary confinement for the rest of their lives.
Well, it is also hilarious that this is a supposedly anti-gay comedian, and he refers to himself as Big Bear, and his following is referred to as the Bears.
No, but seriously.
Yeah.
Like, it was, you know what we did to gay people not long ago, right? I mean,
yes.
Alan Turing, the scientist in the UK who, supposedly won World War II, was a national hero. They castrated him. Mm-hmm. Chemical castration. That's not long ago. I mean, and now these dudes are like, oh, he's famously anti-gay. What does he do? Say, I don't like gay people? Like, what is, ew, that's gross. Like, what does he say? You know what I mean? Like, I want some violence, dude, if you're anti-gay. Be real about it.
Yeah. He's just hilarious about it. That's all.
Same with the racism. I'm tired of these bitch-ass little, non-racist racists. I want some real race. Like, Gavin McInnes is a racist. Gavin is he makes the jokes that Richard Pryor used to make. Mm-hmm. Like, I want some serious racism.
That's what red pilled me on the right, is that, I kept seeing these demons that the left would call out, and I kept looking into the far corners of the dark web and the internet, and it was very, very hard to find a racist. Like, at the end of the day,
I want to hear somebody use the hard R and mean it.
Mm-hmm. Owen Benjamin does, but it's only about the people who stole his bike.
I mean, really mean it. Like really hates them, really wants to do them harm. Mm-hmm. Would love to see them re-enslaved.
Yeah.
Will settle for segregation, but really wants slavery. Okay. That good old fashioned real deal racism. I'm looking for that, Michael. And I can't find it.
I can't find it. Well,
no, I mean it. Like, when's the last time you ran into an honest to God old school racist like that?
Never in my entire life.
Seriously? In Indiana.
Yeah.
Indiana, which had the largest Ku Klux Klan population in the entire country.
Those were all anti-Catholic, anti-Jewish wasps when they were here. That's all that was in the 20s.
Still quite a bit of anti-black animus in Indiana, though. Come on now.
Yeah.
It's the most southern state. It's known as that.
Well, it has an identity crisis. We're jealous of the South, and we wish parts of southern Indiana wishes they were the South. Yeah.
Yeah, you should be.
Yeah.
I'm a famous lover of the South, but
let me do another clip real quick. The biennial German Protestant.
We need more racists.
Yeah. The biennial German Protestant Summit just happened this week, and there's a lot of really interesting things that came from it. First on this tip, just seeing the cultural export of wokeness in the United States in full display here.
Jetzt ist die Zeit zu sagen, wir sind alle die letzte Generation. Jetzt ist die Zeit zu sagen, Black Lives always matter. Jetzt ist die Zeit zu sagen, Gott ist queer. Jetzt ist die Zeit zu sagen, we leave no one to die. Und jetzt ist wieder die Zeit zu sagen, wir schicken ein Schiff und noch viel mehr. Wir empfangen Menschen an sicheren Häfen. Safer spaces for all. Wir haben alle Privilegien und können sie für mehr Gerechtigkeit einsetzen. Wir können füreinander Verbündete sein. Wir sind hier. Wir sind doch viele. Und wir sind nie wieder leise.
Okay. So another thing I'm going to write about on Substack is what the United States created in Germany in terms of a national culture. So the national political culture of Germany, which is what we just witnessed a part of, right? So I'm not making any claims about German popular culture. I'm not making any claims about folk culture, about the ways people like eat food or any of that stuff. I'm just talking about the political culture, the stuff that's available to everybody, that's in the public, right? What politicians say, the discourse of politics in Germany, and the psychology of political people in Germany. So that guy right there, if you were to listen to pretty much any mainstream German politician since 1945, West German politician for a while there, listen to them talk about the United States of America, you would, even if you were a Republican, you would blush with embarrassment at how jingoistic they are about the USA. Like they talk about the USA like Uncle Tom talked about Massa. I mean, it's actually somewhat embarrassing to listen to at times. I don't know if anybody's ever heard this. It's quite remarkable. The British are a lot like that too. But the Germans like shock me whenever I hear them talk. And so that's because we killed their entire political leadership once upon a time. Just killed them, all of them. And said in doing so, yeah, if you ever fuck with us again, we will kill all of you. We will kill all of you. And you know what? If you keep fighting, we'll drop the nuclear bombs on you like we did with your boys in Japan too. So like the German leadership after that was like, oh shit, perpetually, understandably. Marshall Plan comes in. They basically like finance all of West Germany. They instruct them what political leaders to have, what books to have in their libraries, most importantly, what to teach the children about history and about politics and about World War II, who won, who lost, who's bad, what ideas are bad, and which ideas are good. I mean, it was almost a colony, is my point here. West Germany was almost certainly a colony. I think it's safe to call it that. And modern, post 91, post 89 Germany unified Germany is not far from that. Like a shockingly Orwellian unified national psyche around the United States of America, just an absolute subservient attitude toward America and the US. And of course, all of our missiles and our military and our bases are inside their country. I mean, it's a colony. It's a colony. Germany's a US colony. I don't know why people don't call it that. It's really obvious. I mean, imagine if some other country had occupied our country like that, if we had massive military bases from some other country. I mean, come on. It's obvious.
Yeah. Quick, Rumble Super Chat, Fuego de Basaro with the 10. Have you guys thought about moving from Patreon to Locals, since Locals is tied with Rumbles? Hoteps are talking about making the move. Never talked about it, but interesting idea.
You know what? I guess I could do my decision making publicly. I mean, just quick thing. That was a colonial dude talking.
Mm-hmm.
That was the psyche of a colonized person. That guy was colonized in his psyche by the US and America. I mean, by the dominant culture here, by the liberal elite culture. that's what I saw, like a neutered human who speaks as a colonized subject. Anyway, I want to do Substack because I want to write. And I think I need to write. So I messed around on Locals a little bit. I was on Bridget Fettis's. I played around on hers a little bit. I don't think it's my platform. I don't know, but I want to write.
Okay. Well, tying the German biennial conference on the German Protestant Summit to foreign policy here, this was the first year, these Christians are supposedly anti-war. This was the first time that they were explicitly pro-armament of a conflict. Several groups, including Germany's president, explicitly made some ramblings about, hey, it's time to arm Ukraine and continue that support, when typically this is an anti-war sentiment that is expressed at these.
Right. Yeah, so this is the other piece. So the thing that needs to be, the history that needs to be written, and maybe I will do it, although Lily Lynch, who writes for some lefty outfits like New Left Review and Unheard, she writes for Unheard. Lily Lynch, she's on this tip. The European left, and in particular the German left, is more gung-ho for war than anybody in the world. More so than the Democratic Party, more so than the Labour Party or the Tory Party in the UK. I mean, they are all intent. They love NATO. They want war with Russia. They want a regime change in Russia. They're like the tip of the spear against Russia. The European and especially German left, led by the Green Party, which in the 1980s, when I was coming up as a lefty activist, they were like our heroes. Everybody on the left loved the Greens because they merged environmentalism with socialism. Ooh, that was sexy then. The red and the green. Ooh, we love that. Green New Deal. Like I was part of that generation that basically came up with that general idea, merging socialism with environmentalism. Oh, it's a nightmare. Don't get me. I learned later that was just one of the worst ideas ever to have. But anyway, the Green Party was at the vanguard. And here's the thing. In the 1980s, when they were founded, or when they really became a force in global politics, not just German politics, they were totally anti-war. They were against all the wars. They were against NATO. They were against all the wars. They were like, fuck this, fuck US imperialism. They were the one people inside Germany who were not colonized by the US in that way, psychologically. Now they're gone, man. They're like zombies for Joe Biden now. And I need to get into this work. I need to read Lily Lynch's stuff. I know she's written about it. I haven't read it yet, but something happened, and this, the fate of the world hinges on this. This is not like some esoteric thing that you should not worry about. European left-wing politics. I get it. It sounds obscure and esoteric, but like these are the people who might get us all killed.
This is the anti-war left, supposedly in Europe, supporting the largest military alliance and its expansion that has ever existed in the history of mankind.
Yes, nuclear armed military alliance. Yes, exactly. So, I mean, this is really, I know it's very far removed from everybody's life, and it's hard to follow this stuff, and it's very complicated. Yes. But I'm telling you, and everybody who's following this, you may notice one thing. What do we all say? All of us who follow this a lot, we say we're on the brink of World War III. And for the first time in my life, I've said that. I've never said that before. I've never thought that before. I'm 57 years old. I've never thought we were on the brink of World War III. I do think we are now. Mm-hmm. We are just one mistake on the battlefield away from nuclear conflict. One mistake, if one missile goes errantly and hits a city, in Russia, that's one thing that could, and the Ukrainian missiles have been like fucking zigzagging all over the place because they don't know how to operate them because they're made by the United States and they weren't trained properly. They didn't have time to train these guys. So the fucking missiles go everywhere and they get whatever. So many things. And then you have now, what you have now? And Michael Tracy and I talked about this at Icarus Fest. It was we had an incredible conversation during the after party about my God, it was about Ukraine, about the politics. And he was in Poland and he doing work on it. And we now have Polish troops fighting in the Ukrainian army. So Poland is part of NATO. And according to Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty, if one member state is attacked, every other member state has an obligation to defend that attacked member state. So if Polish troops fighting for Ukraine get attacked, which they already have, I mean, isn't that, and Tracy and I were talking about this. I haven't heard no one else discuss this, by the way. Doesn't that trigger Article 5? And doesn't that mean we are now, the United States, signatories to NATO, obviously, aren't we obligated to send in our own troops? The argument will be made, everybody, because that, unfortunately, is what the Democratic Party and NATO want. Led by the neocons, Victoria Nuland, this is what they want. They want American soldiers with the red, white, and blue on the battlefield fighting against Russians. Fighting and dying against Russians. Think about that. It's obvious that that's the leadership in the UK wants it. The leadership across much of Western Europe wants it. And they're trying to come up with a pretext, and they've provoked every which way they can, Russia. They've put all these tripwires everywhere, like sending in these Polish troops, that if someone just makes a little mistake, it can trigger a nuclear war. One provocation after another. I mean, meaning NATO and the United States are deliberately provoking Russia daily with things like this to get us, and I mean this, the American people, to be willing to send our sons over there and shoot Russians and be shot at by Russians, to be blown up by Russian artillery shells, which is how most Ukrainians have been killed, blown up by artillery shells. At least it's quick, no agony involved. You know, you're in 50 pieces immediately, so it's not like you feel anything. That's the selling point for this war. I mean, that's how great it is. Mm-hmm. So yeah, man. Every week I'm gonna say this shit because it sucks that it's so far removed and it's so complicated in understanding, but it's also like, if we don't, we're dead. Mm-hmm. So, yep. Happy birthday. No, happy. Yeah. Happy Thursday. We got to go, don't we?
Yeah.
Sorry. I get wound up about that. But yeah, everybody just watch the Duran. That's all I ask. If you just do that, we'll have world peace. And I'm not kidding. Mm-hmm. If everybody watched the Duran, we would totally have world peace. Those guys should be they should be the head of the one world government or something. They should be heads of the UN, because if they were, we'd be good. Yeah. Well, also everybody needs to go to unregisteredacademy.com and check out our courses about NATO, about the war in Ukraine, about World War II. Basically, you've made it your crusade and mission to get the best educational content out there about this conflict with the best experts about it. And educate yourself about this and really hear about it, because we go through NATO's charter with Scott Ritter, and you really see everything just perfectly illuminated. Also, rest in peace, Ted Kaczynski. We have a course on the Unabomber's Manifesto, so check that out. If you took just those 3 courses that you mentioned and you knew nothing going in, just took those 3, you could go to a think tank in Washington, D.C. and hold your own in an argument with someone. I guarantee it. I'll give you your money back if you can't, if you think you can't after that. If you take all 3 of those courses, and pay attention, I guarantee you will be able to win most arguments you get into about foreign policy. I guarantee that.
Mhm.
Thank you. Yeah, I obviously take this very seriously. This, especially in the last year and a half, has been like the main issue for me, front of mind. So yes, I put a lot into that. And it's also a project, as you know, I've been working on for 12 years too. So the book, so that's the courses come out of that, and a lot of passion and a lot of hard work, but I love that work. Like, I never complain about, I love doing that historical work, learning about other countries, learning about foreign relations. I just eat it up. So yeah. All right. Now, go to unregisteredacademy.com
Or patreon.com/unregistered for this one.
and go to patreon.com/unregistered to join us at Unregistered Live, where Michael and I are going right now. It's a Zoom meeting with all the patrons of Unregistered, and we hang out. You can be completely anonymous and faceless. No one needs to know you're there at all. You can just watch easily on Zoom. Go to patreon.com/unregistered. Join up at any level, and you can join us at Unregistered Live at any level, any patronage level. It's really fun every week after Unreported. That's it.
Yep.
Look for new courses. New courses are coming out soon, I promise. Icarus Fest kind of slowed us down a little bit at the Academy, but we are coming out with a whole raft of new courses. So check that out soon. We'll announce it very shortly.
Yep. A lot of issues we couldn't get to today with the plebs. So you're going to have to go to patreon.com/unregistered and get the Zoom link to hang out and talk about those.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, man. I'll see you over there.
Yep. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.